back. This time we're going to be jumping into, it's going to be part 3 of Phase 3. These last 5 movies that we have on here, I couldn't edit them down anymore because of Infinity War, Captain Marvel, and Endgame. We had so much to say about. So we're going to do Infinity War through Captain Marvel in this video, and then we'll finish up the MCU in part 4 with Endgame and Far From Home. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into it. So next up is Infinity War, and I'm not even going to wait on you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think you could argue that this is the best MCU movie. As far as group and team movies go in the MCU, this is the best in my opinion.
This is the best, yeah.
The tone is incredibly different. Hulk comes out, gets his ass kicked pretty well. Thor is just trapped. He just has to watch his brother get strangled to death. Or crushed to death, I guess, technically.
Crushed his neck, yeah.
Heimdall, before he dies, as his last final thing, he sends Hulk to Earth. Great sacrifice. If you look back at it, that's one of the most clutch plays that the MCU has ever shown.
Yeah.
Infinity War there's epic moments in most of the MCU movies, but this one has just more than I can count.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot that comes out of this movie, too, in terms of, like you said, character interactions, so many different introductions, say even the smallest ones, like when Doctor Strange and Iron Man meet for the first time.
And then you get the whole thing of the Avengers broke up. Hulk doesn't know because he's been in space for 4 years, and then Tony's like, I have this burner with Cap on it. And then as soon as you see him, he's about to press call on Cap, and then they hear something outside, and you're like, oh man, no, this is how they get kept apart the whole time. Because you got to think if maybe they could have got the entire team all together in one place, that they could have had a better chance of stopping him or something. They have to go outside. They have to start facing the Black Order, which was done really well design wise, and they were really cool in terms of giving them early on antagonists to fight before they got to Thanos. I thought they died a little too easily. There was a lot of back and forth between both groups, but Ebony Maw, he didn't really do anything.
It was kind of an easy wipe
out. The other 3 survived a little bit longer, and they looked really cool design-wise, and they were badass fighters and stuff. It's just that I feel like they got killed way too fast.
Another movie where every fight scene so memorable. I loved everything, whether it was the streets of New York where Ebony Maw got called Squidward, or or even the fight on Titan. That was fantastic. That whole thing was amazing. Seeing Star-Lord, even Star-Lord and Doctor Strange interacting together.
Yeah, the Titan fight was good. The Wakanda fight, every fight scene was great. And the humor was there. Even though this is kind of a darker movie, the humor was there the entire time as well. Which I do appreciate Marvel's ability to put a spin on every situation and put a good balance of humor and action and serious tones and everything. Everything in the movie is great. We've said that several times. That's just a general thing.
Yeah.
But I guess I want to kind of get into the more specific and smaller kind of detailed things that I enjoy more. I try to look more at there's things that I think other people don't notice that I do, or maybe I just think that way. I don't want to sound like I'm being preachy or I notice things more, or I just appreciate smaller things. Sometimes so there's epic moments where they play the theme a little bit. When they're introducing a character or something, something bad's happening and then another character shows up and it kind of gives you hope and peps you up a little bit with that theme that comes in. One that I think gets overlooked a little bit is when the Corvus Glade and Proxima Midnight, they're going after Scarlet Witch and Vision in the train station, and all of a sudden she stops and she looks at the train passing, and then you can kind of see the shape of a character behind there. And you know who it is because you recognize that scene from the trailer. You just didn't know at what point it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But then he steps out. That theme starts playing. He's got his beard. She throws the staff at him. He catches it. Black Widow and Falcon come in, and the theme's still going. And he fucking drop kicks her through a kiosk, and Black Widow's sliding and slicing her leg up after Cap throws her that the staff, and that whole entrance and fight is so epic in such a small amount of time. You get to see Black Widow I'm glad that they made her fighting skills on par with the Black Order. I did not think that was gonna happen. They just seem like they're a little bit more overpowered than from the comics and everything, like they're the children of Thanos, like they're basically his core group of like mercenaries. And I'm just glad that they made her look strong enough to be on par with her fighting skills and Corvus Glaive and all that, who she was fighting. And that's something that they kept up in the Wakanda scene too. So I appreciate that they made her look like competent enough to like be able to fight. You brought up Thor.
Fantastic. Thor, that's a scream-worthy moment.
I got so pumped during that scene because anytime they play the Avengers theme in the middle of the movie, like when something epic happens, it just elevates it that much more.
Yeah.
But the fact that you weren't expecting it because you just saw Thor basically die trying to make that axe,
and then he shows up. You're like,
Groot, because and then you forget that Peter Dinklage tells him like in theory it could even open the Bifrost, but you don't think that they're like you think so maybe he can use the Bifrost or whatever, and then when they actually do it, it beams down and you're like, okay, it's Thor. But you don't expect him to look the way he does when he comes out. Like there's something different about him when he comes out of that Bifrost beam.
Yeah.
That there's a different feel and tone to his character, and especially when he's got Groot and Rocket with him. They jump off. They're on Earth for the first time. They're in Wakanda. Cap's like, oh shit, like Thor's here, and then Banner's all like, oh, you guys are so screwed now. It makes me so happy whenever the characters and the teammates are like just so overjoyed and like they just have hope again on their face in such a hopeless situation as soon as one of their buddies shows up. And so Thor shows up.
It's so great.
Rocket's with him, Groot's with him, which is already a kind of cool scene anyway, because when they're in space, I feel like you get a certain type of lighting where it's like darker almost backgrounds or like. But like when you show up in Wakanda, it's like super bright and sunny out, and then you have Groot and Rocket show up. Like it casts them in a different lighting and style almost than what they look like in their respective movies. So that it's just a cooler look. And then Thor jumps up and he's like, "Bring me Thanos," and he slams his hammer down. But I appreciate that like whenever he goes to do that, you see Rocket and Groot take off behind him. Like they're there to fuck shit up. Like. They come to fight.
You get them away from the Guardians for the first time. I love that so much, and it's just small shit like that where I'm like, yeah, this is the first time Groot and Rocket are leaving Peter and all them, just doing their. I mean, I guess they technically did it with Yondu and shit, but they're just going with Thor, and they're joining this giant battle. Yep. But they're not just joining as his part. They're just kind of. They're not joining as like their own separate thing. They're joining his partner, and they're about to fuck.
Like they know all they know is that there's bad guys, and they're gonna fight.
And they'll whoop ass to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Thor looks incredible now. He's got Stormbreaker, and he's got such a power boost from that. He jumps up in the air, he gets the lightning going, the storm turns dark, and he just slams that shit down and blows up like half that army. There's another. Okay, so at the beginning of this Wakanda battle that starts, when they first charge, you get that shot of like Black Panther's out in the lead, and then Captain America like catches up to him.
Yeah, oh my.
It's like a little subtle thing that like I appreciate it when they show the full potential of these characters' powers in these movies, like how they should be in the comics. And like Cap has always been fast, but you want Black Panther like agility and stealth and speed is like his whole kind of thing. That's like his motif.
Yeah.
So you had him out in front, and then you have Cap kind of put on the afterburners to like catch up to him a little bit, and then they both leap over and just start slamming people. One of my only gripes with this movie, while I'm talking about Cap, while I'm thinking about it, and Captain America like characters, Bucky in Infinity War and Endgame, for some reason, they didn't have him doing any fights. They had him just shooting his gun, which I don't appreciate, especially since they gave him a vibranium arm at the beginning or before that Wakanda fight. They gave him that vibranium arm, and then he doesn't get to use it at all. He literally just shoots his gun. He stands in one place and turns and shoots, which he's an excellent shot. I get that. They showed it, in Winter Soldier and everything, like he's an expert marksman. I just don't appreciate that he's also a super soldier. Like he has all the same abilities as Cap, but he never gets to use them outside. Like Winter Soldier and Civil War, he got to use quite a bit. But Infinity War and Endgame, he just gets a couple shots of him spinning around and using the gun. Probably should have actually been running kind of right behind Cap and Black Panther when they first charged.
Yeah, honestly, he should have if he has, because he is essentially the same way. So
Yeah.
it should be kept up and kept apart.
Then we're gonna switch over to the Titan scene now, because you get the other Guardians meeting up with Iron Man, Spider Man, and Doctor Strange, which is it's a fun team to begin with. Then you have Doc looking forward to figure out. He looks at all those possible futures. He finds out one where they win, but you don't know if the events that are playing out for the rest of the movie are the situation where they win. So that's a good bit of ambiguity there. Yeah, I mean, you get kind of a little confirmation whenever Doctor Strange gives up the Time Stone and they get snapped, and he was like, it was the only way. So that's kind of a little bit of hope for the next movie, but you don't know that for sure. It's all just speculation. But you get all the interactions between those two groups. The Guardians are pretty dumb by most standards. They can fight, but they're pretty dumb. Tony's all upset with them that they can't follow the plan that he's trying to do. That whole fight on Titan was good. Doctor Strange going one-on-one with Thanos is probably, I'll say, my favorite fight of that movie.
Yeah, I do love that.
Just because all of the different effects and powers you kind of get to see that you don't, like, he didn't do half of that stuff in the Doctor Strange movie. And even
kind of like what he's learned along the way.
And even my wife, when she went to see Doctor Strange with me, she was like, that was kind of boring. I don't really like that too much. But when she saw Infinity War, she was like, Doctor Strange was so cool in that movie. She just instantly changed her opinion on him. And I was like, they made him look like such a badass in that movie. So he was really cool. Did. Yeah. And then that scene, that's another one I have written down, where Cap is, they're trying to stop Thanos from getting to Vision. And Cap is like holding Thanos. He's holding the gauntlet, basically.
Yeah, that gauntlet, oh my god.
He's holding Thanos off, which is impressive in and of itself, because Thanos is a Titan. But Cap's holding him off, and then you just kind of see that look on Thanos' face, like he's angry and like really trying at first, and then he's like worried. Why is this taking so long for me to like punch you in the face? Like, how are you doing this? And then he kind of hits him. He's like, I'm not gonna take any chances, or I'm like, why am I wasting my time with this? But he's like almost impressed or like worried when Cap is like holding him off. He's the best villain in the MCU for sure.
Absolutely number one. I don't know anybody that would argue it. I think he absolutely
exactly. He's almost acting like conflicted, like he doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He doesn't want to do all this, but it's his goal, and he has to hurt people and go through people to make this goal happen. And he thinks it's going to be better for the remaining people in the long run. It's almost like he's like a parent. He's like doing what he thinks is good for you, even though it
can't always be right.
It might hurt you. He makes it happen. He does the snap, and then you're just like, everybody starts turning to dust. I didn't know how the snap was going to work, but them kind of turning into dust and disintegrating was surprising still. Like, I knew the snap happened, but I didn't know exactly how it happened and who was going to be affected by it.
Right.
And then when you start seeing all your favorite characters go away, it's like, oh man.
I do enjoy that they kept the core 6 people still alive for the snap.
Exactly.
Give them their conclusion for Endgame when it came out.
Good redemption arc. There were ones that I was more sad of. I'm sure everybody has their favorites, and there was ones that I was more sad about than others. Whenever Groot goes, I'm like, oh, that one hit me in the feels. And then whenever Spider-Man. On Titan, whenever like the Guardians start to go, you're like, oh wait, that's like all of the Guardians. No. Rocket's the only one left. And then you hear Peter's, he's like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. And everybody, I don't know if you had this in your theater, but in my theater, when he said that, everyone went like out loud. Like there were girls, like there was a girl in front of me, she was like, oh no. Like as soon as he said that. And then I was like, my mouth was just open. I was like, no, please no. And then, it shows him he's stumbling towards him or whatever, and that's like, that's like a father-son dynamic almost between them.
It is. It's so heartbreaking.
So he's like holding him, and he's like, hey, yeah, you're good. It's okay. And he just kind of lets him go, and then Peter apologizing to him. He's like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come. I didn't mean to do this to you. I'm sorry. I failed or whatever. And it's just like, just hits you right in the feels, man. I teared up a little bit. It didn't all the way cry. There's a lot of moments in these movies where I tear up, and I can't fully cry for whatever reason. But there were people in the theaters that were sniffling and crying when that happened, like when it ended. It's just it's a rough scene, especially he's 15, he's a kid. They literally refer to him as the kid. And he
They
did
do.
so good in that fight against Thanos. Like, he was holding his own, and then he just, I don't know, man. It hits you real hard. Watching Vision die twice was hard.
Yeah, way too much.
That was
man.
pretty rough. The second death was worse. When Thanos kind of just pushes in his forehead and rips it out. That one's much more graphic and worse. I don't know. I mean, that's probably the most violent death that's been in these movies. It just doesn't look that violent because he doesn't have blood, or like he's not human.
If he did it, that'd be if this was a Logan movie. Yeah, this would be splitting all over the place.
Oh yeah, it'd be Game of Thrones type of like head explosion.
Yeah, I know it was. Yeah, I think overall this movie was everything I was hoping it would be. It was fantastic.
We'll move on to Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I think we'll move quicker for this one.
Yeah, I don't have as much to say about this. I have it at A tier.
I have it at C.
You have it at C. Okay. So by default of our own rules that we made up, we'll put it at B.
Put it at B.
All I have written down here is that Paul Rudd is a national treasure. I said that for the first Ant-Man discussion too. It's a good setup for how Endgame is gonna go, like the plot device for that. I think it does a good job of kind of establishing, this quantum realm and kind of the weird ways that the laws of physics and stuff behave. And
right.
So that's a good setup for the story device that gets used in Endgame.
Yeah, I think we definitely got a really good end credit scene where they dusted away everything and just kind of tied away. But I don't think this movie's bad. And after thinking about it more, I'd probably bump it more up to a B. But I don't think this movie's bad in the slightest. I just think, personally, I think it's more forgettable than a majority of the MCU movies.
Yeah.
I would remember the first Ant-Man more than I would remember this one. What I will say good about this one is that I really liked Wasp, and it was a good intro to Wasp.
Yeah, she's a badass dude.
Fun. Then again, I wasn't. She felt like a side character, whereas she is one of the title characters. So it just felt like she should be more in the front line. And for some reason, again, she felt like a side character for some reason. And I don't know what it was, but I think it was also just Ghost. The character Ghost was just, again, another forgettable character. As cool as the character was for me, I don't come out of that movie and go, I will remember that character walking away. Yeah. For some reason, there's a lot of this movie that just feels forgettable.
They have Sonny Birch, the character that's trying to buy the Pym Tech and all that kind of stuff. Is a pretty good antagonist, actually. As far as Ghost is supposed to be the main villain, but I feel like there's probably darker implications behind that other guy, just because you don't know who his benefactor is. There's a lot of theories that it could be Norman Osborn, could be MODOK if you're going with like an AIM background or something. There's a lot of fun theories you could go with on that. Yeah, and then they did a lot of good stuff again with they're tailoring the fight and chase scenes to what the abilities are of the characters in this movie. So you have Wasp and Luis driving around in that van that can shrink.
Yeah.
That whole chase scene with all the different shrinking, like the Pez dispenser they throw out the window and all that kind of stuff. They make that really big, and
there's a lot of fun with the movie. I think.
Yeah, really you get another Giant Man scene. He gets even bigger than he was in Civil War, I think.
It definitely. At least he feels like he is.
Yeah, perfectly fun movie. Story wise, it was good. It's just another kind of throwaway villain kind of thing.
It's kind of just threw him in there. You won't remember it, the villain.
More just set up for Endgame. Captain Marvel.
Oh my god.
Might lose some of the audience on this, and we feel the same way about it as when we talked about Black Panther. We're gonna do this objectively as possible. We're gonna put it in D tier, I assume, right?
That's where I had.
Okay.
That's where I had.
Tell me your thoughts on it. I know we've kind of talked about everything behind the scenes and off camera a little bit, but
we talked a little bit about it. Yeah, my thing with Captain Marvel is, so again I've said before, I'm a huge comic guy. Captain Marvel, I absolutely love Captain Marvel in the comics. I think she is fantastic. Whenever I heard she was coming, when I saw the end credit, and I believe, Infinity War end credit, where Nick Fury dusts away and calls in, and I saw the Captain Marvel logo.
Yeah.
I was so fucking pumped because I'm like, oh, thank God we get Captain Marvel. I love her so much. But what I got from this movie was they brought in a couple directors that were to do this film, and I know that it was like that they brought in these like art house directors, Anna Boden, Ryan Fleck. I know that they are like art house directors. Usually do a lot short, like not as well known movies, which is no issue with that. But they come in to direct this movie, but it definitely feels like they have a motive to make a movie again driven solely on pain. We have a woman that is our lead superhero character, so female empowerment all the way, and so that's their lead motive. So when I went and watched this movie, there's so much about this movie that stands out. One, I cannot pick an entire, for instance, a superhero movie. I can't pick an entire fight scene that even stands out in this movie. I can't remember any of them other than maybe the fact that she has like little hand gauntlet things where she can't use her powers, I guess. But there's not a single memorable moment. They constantly plaster in this movie that it is a female empowerment movie. And just in case you haven't gotten that, we will put a metaphorical female empowerment sticker every 5 seconds in the movie, like you're a moron and you don't understand. So I need you to understand that it is. And I tell people all the time, there's nothing wrong with a female empowerment superhero movie. But if you want a good one, I say go watch Wonder Woman. I think Wonder Woman's great. I think Wonder Woman's fantastic. I think it pushes female empowerment in a good way, not where it treats the audience like they're moronic and can't tell that it's a female empowerment. I guess if I really tried my hardest, but right now I can't think of a more anticlimactic big villain battle at the ending of a movie than this, other than her just saying, "Yep, not gonna fight you, just gonna shoot you really hard and pretty much incapacitate you," and that's pretty much the end of the battle. There's nothing that came out of it. The big battle with her and Jude Law, that was it. That was all it came down to, and that's the biggest gripe. And another small one, obviously, that I'll touch while I'm on a roll here, is now when I see Avengers and everything like this, you're going to tell me that the eye patch that Nick Fury wears is because he got scratched by a cat.
Well, it wasn't a cat. It was a flurgan.
I guess an alien. Flurgan, my bad. Sorry, so it was a flurgan. And just the fact that it got scratched up by that, I was like, oh my God, because I was hoping it was going to be some big heroic thing for him and like something very noble. But it's just after the battle was over, he's just holding the cat and going, oh yeah. And then it scratches him. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding?
Again, not bad acting.
No.
The casting, I think, was actually pretty good too. I know there's been a lot of issues, behind the scenes with Brie Larson and the rest of the cast and stuff, and she's kind of maybe said some off-putting things when this movie was coming out. However, in the context of the character and acting, I think she's a good fit. Like she is a good look for that character, especially in Endgame when they do her haircut shorter. She looks so much better in that, character wise. But I think it's a good fit. I think it's just the story was weak and the way that her character was written was awful. There's no reason at all for me to be emotionally invested in this Captain Marvel. Basically, you kind of start with her in present day, when she's already, with the Kree, and she's already has her powers, and she just kind of remembers, like, she doesn't really remember much. She just has little flashbacks in her dreams of, like, the crash and how she got her powers and stuff. That's fine, you can do that, but there's literally no scenes of her. She's in the Air Force. And to me, if you want to make a female empowerment movie, you show her going through training in the military and show her doing missions with the Air Force for the first maybe 20-30 minutes of that movie. And then you show her actually crash, and then you show her with the explosion and get her abilities. And then you can show when Jude Law is coming to pick her up out of the wreckage, you show her blacking out before you see his face or something. And then that way you don't know who ended up taking her or like what their nefarious plans were or whoever.
Yeah, the way they formulated it was so off-putting.
But instead,
I didn't even care.
And that way you can have like your character development happen naturally over time. With the movie we actually got, you have you have character development that's almost like it. They just tell you that it happens. Like, that's what some TV shows do. When they're not really good at character development, they just tell you that it happens off screen. But yeah, so basically you just start out with her. She's like a hard ass like soldier. She doesn't remember anything. All she's taught now is how to fight, and that's it. And she's in this Kree, the team. They go and they're hunting scrolls and whatever. Right. And then just over time, little bits and pieces, dreams here and there. She's like piecing back together that she used to be in the Air Force and all this kind of stuff. And then you watch that DVD on literally the DVD or whatever the log is of that crash or whatever. Yeah. When they put that in the computer, and then it shows you everything that happened, and that's like 45 minutes before the movie's over. That should have been the whole first 30 minutes of the movie.
It really should have been the first. When they showed that, their formulation of the plot itself, the formulation is just so cattywampus, in my opinion. I'm just like, I don't know what you were aiming for.
Yeah, and basically all they did was they said, oh, hey, she used to be an Air Force pilot, and here she is now. She has all these powers, and you should she's the most powerful Avenger, and you should just like her because she's a woman and she's powerful. Yep. When in reality, her friend, who was, in the Air Force with her, has a daughter, has her own life, literally risked her life to fly that aircraft and the mission to help all these people. She's literally more of a hero than anybody else in this movie, and she doesn't have any powers. She's just a military vet, and that, like, I don't know, that just, whenever you have a character that does more heroic things than your supposedly hero, your heroine, your main character, that just makes the character look even worse.
My thing is, I do want to go back, like, for this, it's not necessarily the acting, because Brie Larson is a great actress. She's phenomenal. Yeah. But for this movie, it just feels like the character itself of Carol Danvers, I cannot get behind. She's too cocky to the point of you don't really see a fluctuation of like the graph for her. Like, her personality doesn't seem like it's gonna go anywhere. I don't see her.
Yeah, she's badass from the time the movie starts to when it ends. She gets slightly upset at little tiny intervals, but for the most part, she's just super cocky, super confident. I could understand, like, if they showed me the first half of the movie, or the first part of the movie, like quarter of it, where she met her friend in training, like boot camp, and they're going through it, they're training together. You do, like Captain America, you show him actually going through boot camp, and basically you show him having fun, laughing, maybe getting into trouble, but then you can kind of show as they get further along in their training, they're starting to develop that more professional, basically the way they carry themselves and the confidence. I could understand if they started out like that, and then when she woke up and she's present day and she's with the Kree, and then she's acting all serious because she doesn't remember her past, and therefore, she's psychologically damaged, she acts a certain way, she has to act tough and overconfident to make up for her insecurities and lack of recognition of what happened to her. But she still remembers, like, it's almost like her basic instinct took over, and she just remembered all of her military training, and her personality and stuff just was suffered because of her amnesia. But yeah, it's just the way the movie was set up, it didn't help me. It didn't get me emotionally invested in her, and it just comes off as like they're shoving it down your throat.
That's all they do with it.
This is the way it is, and you should like it because it's different. And
yes, it's politically correct, so enjoy.
Yeah.
And that's my thing. I can't do that with movies. I have to look at them as all as the same. Like, these movies are movies, so I'm gonna look at them as movies.
Yeah, and then that final fight, like you were talking about. So she goes into space. She blows up several ships, and then she just kind of like smacks her hand like to make that explosion of her energy, and then they just kind of retreat or whatever. Which I guess is fine. If you just showed yourself single-handedly blowing up a bunch of their ships and stuff, they would kind of get that. Like, we'll cut our losses. But then she goes back down to Earth, and she just kind of like... And I know that it's bringing it back to the beginning of the movie where he was trying to teach her, don't use your powers, because he knew if she used them, that he would be fucked. So he was like, you're really going to cheat and use those blaster thing, your fucking laser hands, and she's like... Yeah.
Yep.
Like, why not? Like, why wouldn't you? And that's kind of the point that kind of is what makes me mad about it too, is like, if you showed her military training, she could have trained in hand-to-hand combat, and then she could have developed almost like like a level of respect and professionalism, like if she's in hand-to-hand combat, if neither one of them is armed. You know, she could have taken that guy out by beating him in a hand-to-hand fight, like she didn't do in the beginning of the movie. That's how you do redemption. She couldn't beat him in the beginning of the movie because he literally trained her. So now that you're at the beginning, you should not use your powers. You should not use your super strength, your energy, or anything. You should have just beat that guy hand to hand, and then taken him into custody or do whatever. And that would have been such a better redemption and story.
It shows your character, and it's like
exactly. But what it comes off as is she's like, well, I'm ultra powerful now, so why would I not use these powers for everything? Why risk it?
Yeah.
That just
I guess you could do that.
It just comes off as like she's very irresponsible.
It's very Indiana Jones with that guy that goes crazy with him with I think it's the swords or whatever, and he just shoots the guy.
That was actually just because Harrison Ford was hot.
Yeah. But I took it as like, you know what, fuck it, why not just do this? This will be quicker. Yeah. It's for sure.
And we'll kind of talk about her character a little bit more in Endgame. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of part 3 for Phase 3. We're going to finish up the MCU as a whole in the next video. It's going to be Endgame and Far From Home. And then we are officially done. Hope you guys enjoyed this. We're excited to be back in the grind again. So as we keep moving forward, just remember to keep supporting us by subscribing to the channel, liking these videos, turn on notifications so you don't miss an upload. Alright, we'll leave it at that, guys. This has been Off Script. That's a wrap.